Welcome into another edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. And if you're tuning in here on a Friday, you're in for a treat because, of course, we've got Julia Westerman and Caroline Soro here with you. But we have a new face welcoming to the team, Bronwyn Story, joining us out in Charleston. So, Bronwyn, welcome to Palmetto Sports Daily. Welcome to the South Carolina crew. We are excited to have you and just looking forward to you being a part of this show.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm just now dipping my toe into South Carolina sports, and it's a good time to do it, so I'm excited.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you come here from, and what have you covered in your career so far?
Yeah, so I'm actually an Arkansas native, Woo Pig, but I'm actually coming from the Southland Conference in Frisco, Texas. So, Texas fans, let me tell you, they do not play about their teams, no matter what it is, whatever sport it is. They are diehard. Even if you're Texas Longhorn, you're Texas Tech. Texas people love Texas. I've never seen anything like it. South Carolina's been a little different for me because everybody's so nice here. When you go to Texas, the first thing they say is how great Texas is. So that was a little bit of an adjustment. But some of my favorite moments that I've gotten to cover, I love Louisiana sports. Funnily enough, a lot of the Southland Conference, we have, I think, 2 or 3 teams only in Texas, and the rest are in Louisiana. Why is it in Frisco? I don't know. But I love Louisiana sports, and the culture down there and the people there were some of my absolute favorites. So I know I'm probably going to have the exact same experience so far here in South Carolina, and I can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned Texas. Obviously, you'll get to overlap with them a good bit, especially in women's basketball. That's become a really good matchup to look forward to every year between South Carolina and Texas. We've seen it once already this season. That was South Carolina's first loss of the year. And now let's jump right into some basketball talk because South Carolina picked up a big win on Thursday night over South Florida. The final score 103-44. So just another one of those 100-point games from the Gamecocks. And just an impressive stat line. I mean, 5 Gamecocks in double figures. Something that stood out to me, 74 points in the paint. Obviously, Medina Okot returned to the lineup after being out for a couple of games with an injury. And so, saw her impact immediately there. But, she had a double-double. And then the biggest thing, obviously, Joyce Edwards, another new career high. I mean, we just mentioned this earlier in the week because against Penn State last Sunday, she put up 29 points, which was her career high then. That was, 5 days ago. And now, after that, she just set another new career high with 34 points against South Florida. And she's having an impressive last couple of games. 34 points against South Florida, 29 points against Penn State, 25 points against North Carolina Central. It's kind of Joyce Edwards' game right now, and Dawn Staley has talked a lot about the areas that she still needs to improve. She's doing really well in the scoring attack, but here's kind of what Dawn Staley had to state last night about what she needs to still work on moving forward.
Joyce is a competitor, and Joyce wants to score a lot of points, and she's very capable of doing that. But Joyce isn't just a scorer; she's a really great playmaker. She can make the play that's supposed to be made, and sometimes you got to force her to do those things because she's so locked into, playing advantage basketball, meaning she could probably score against anybody that's guarding her. So in order for us to protect that part of it, we're challenging her to open up that part of her game where she makes. She dumps it off every so often to keep the thing that she does well, which is score at the rim, pretty good footwork. We keep that fresh, and people aren't going to double and triple team her, and she forces shots that way. So, she's developing quite nicely.
Yeah, looking at this early on in the non-conference slate, they've, really gotten this team to start rolling. They faced a couple of injuries so far early on, and, they've had to bring them back into the fold and kind of see how that team chemistry continues to gel. So, guys, I'll just kind of get your assessment here as we get closer and closer to conference play. That begins, obviously, on New Year's Day here in Columbia when the Gamecocks will host Alabama. And so we're getting really close to that. Caroline, just what do you think of how this team is performing right now as we close out this non-conference slate?
Yeah, you know, Julia, you said it a few minutes ago, but when I'm thinking about this Gamecocks team, I'm thinking about the amount of points that this group is putting up on a nightly basis. I mean, I've lost count of how many times they've gone past the triple digit, the 100 mark, you know? I mean, especially when players like Joyce Edwards are playing the way that they're playing, right? When they're getting downhill, she's getting to the rim. The ball is going in the hoop. It feels like a lot more often than it's not going in the hoop. I remember a couple weeks ago when we were on here talking about how big of a deal that the Chloe Kitts injury was going to be for South Carolina. Who's going to step up, right? Like who's going to play in that spot? Who's going to fulfill the role of really a player who's been a star for the Gamecocks for a couple years now? And Joyce Edwards is very seamlessly filling in a lot of holes for this offense that maybe I feel like they thought were going to be a bigger deal than they have been, but the emergence of Joyce Edwards has really been something to watch, and it's super exciting for her. I mean, I know Dawn Staley was talking about her getting to the rim, but I remember on Saturday when I was watching that game against Penn State, she knocked down a three as well. She's got a couple threes from on the season as well. But Bronwyn, I know you've been around some pretty high quality basketball in your time as well. I mean, what have you maybe witnessed from the Gamecocks in your couple weeks so far? And is there anything that has kind of jumped out to you just from watching Dawn Staley's group kind of do what they do?
I think something I'm really interested in seeing is how the output that this team is having right now, how is that going to translate to conference play when they're facing a little bit more of some, we'll say, bigger opponents as they head into the conference? Is that output going to be the same? Are they going to struggle with it? And if they do start to struggle, who's going to be that playmaker? Is it going to be Edwards? Is somebody else going to emerge? I'm really interested to see how this is going to go on in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep a tab on. And Caroline, to answer your question, this was the 5th time that South Carolina scored more than 100 points, and it was their 7th win by 40 points or more. So that's something that we've kind of been curious about throughout this season so far, is going into it. Don was not worried about if this team was going to be able to score. I think the concern was always a little bit more on the defensive end because, you run into a team like Texas who they already faced, and you can score, but they couldn't prevent Texas from scoring. So as we get into conference play, it'll be interesting to see how they're able to kind of balance those things. So really great performance from them. They are still in Florida tomorrow night when they face Florida Gulf Coast tomorrow night and continue that little road trip before the holiday season. But Caroline, Clemson got both teams in action tomorrow.
Yeah, they do. The Tigers are going to be out there doing what they've been doing. Both these teams are on a roll. While we're talking women's hoops, we'll just go ahead and start with the Clemson women. They will be taking on North Florida, and that's going to be potential 4th win in a row. We'll see how that goes. The Tigers have won 3 in a row so far, and this is a team that head coach Sean Poppy says feels like is getting there. Like he says, you're kind of starting to see the potential of what this team can be. They're really playing well off of each other. They've got a lot of different players that can score. Hannah Cohn and Rusa Agustinante are both really good from shooting the 3 ball, so they've been really firing on all cylinders, and they are coming off a couple of pretty big wins, one over Pitt and one over Charleston Southern, getting up close to the 30-point differential there, and this will be their second to last game before they open up ACC play. So good opportunity for the Tigers to get a couple more wins under their belt, maybe try some different lineups, kind of see what Coach Sean Poppy wants to, have heading into conference play. So we got the women playing. They will be at home at Little John Coliseum, and then on Sunday we have the men playing. Oddly enough, they play at a similar time, but that's because the men will be playing at the Well in Greenville, so not too far from us here at Fox Carolina. They'll be playing the Big 12 Cincinnati there, and the men's team also on a roll. The Tigers have 2 straight victories. One of the ones that they're coming off of is in that Palmetto series, a win over South Carolina on Tuesday night, and this will actually be the Tigers' last non-conference game, so they've jumped up to 9-3 with a couple wins here in their last few, and Cincy is 7-4. Now, being a Big 12 girl myself, having come from covering the University of Kansas and Kansas State, we know how tough these Big 12 teams are. So Cincinnati, even though they're sitting at 7-4, had a couple early losses, they are no slouch. So that has a chance to be a good one at 3 p.m. here in Greenville. But guys, we're going to take a quick break. We will come back and have a little more Palmetto Sports Daily for you right after this. All right, welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. Guys, we have a big-time game for the Carolina Panthers coming up on Sunday. It feels like we've been saying that, branding these games as big time for the last couple weeks, but that's because it's been true week after week. The Panthers are in a very interesting spot in terms of the NFC South, and that spot got a whole lot more interesting last week when they took one on the chin in New Orleans, ended up losing 20-17 against the now 4-10 Saints. Two of those wins in New Orleans coming against Carolina, winning both of those divisional games. So now things get a little bit interesting, right? They have 3 games left, and they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers twice in that span. They've got a game against the Seahawks in the middle. We'll get to all of those implications for what that means with both the Panthers and the Bucs sitting towards the top of the NFC South. But first, let's just hear from head coach Dave Canales, just talking a little bit about this matchup and also about the opposing quarterback, who he actually, if you remember back to 2023, Coach Canales overlapped with Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay. So he's got a little bit of a different perspective on Baker and what he brings to the table too.
A great matchup right here. Division opponent at home in Bank of America Stadium. A lot of energy in the building, a lot of excitement from the guys, and we understand what it's going to require. Focus. It's going to require our best playing against these types of opponents, you know, the Bucs namely, this part of the season. And so I'm fired up to get going, and as well as the rest of the group. Yeah, he just continues to take his game up and really just time on task with the group of receivers that he's gotten comfortable with. And they're back to full strength in terms of just the guys that they were counting on coming into this season. And I can certainly see the excitement of trying to get Mike the way they get Mike the ball, and Chris as well, and they got Bucky back as well. So a bunch of different weapons on that side, and Baker's kind of right in the middle of that, being the point guard and distributing and making sure the offense works smoothly.
So a couple things to unpack from this as well. I want to go back to what Coach was saying about Baker there. Just remember that Baker not only spent time in overlap with Canales in Tampa Bay in his first season there, he played for the Panthers back in 2022. So I'm kind of thinking about that picture that's been floating around of Baker Mayfield and the Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold, who both spent time in Carolina together, now standing in the Panthers' way of getting to the playoffs. A lot of different ways this can shake out. The most simple form is that the Panthers basically need to win both games over the Bucs. So that'll be this coming week, week 16, and then the last week of the season in week 18. So, Bronwyn, I'm just curious. I know you're new to the Panthers beat, but I mean, this would be the first time that Carolina makes the playoffs since 2017. So it's been a long time for these Panthers fans, and also it'd be the first time that they win the division since 2015. That was when Cam Newton was the quarterback. I mean, if you're a Panthers fan, Bronwyn, what's kind of going through your brain while you're thinking about this? Like, wow, there is a lot on the table right now. This is crazy.
From what I've picked up on, you should be scared. Okay, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. You should be a little bit scared. I think the number one problem for the Panthers is consistency. Can they continually be successful in the areas of the game that they need to be? They haven't had a consistent win, and I think it's been 4 games. I may be off on that, but they haven't had back-to-back wins in a while. And so they really need this game if they want a clear path to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting thing to look at, and I've talked to people over the last several weeks and throughout the season, and a lot of it typically rides on how Bryce Young performs. And it's unfortunate because you've seen him at his highs, but you've also seen him at his lowest lows. So it's a lot of what Bryce is going to look like, because you just see how he kind of impacts that offense as a whole. But you've seen when they're at their best what works for them. And, they really, established the run game this year, picking up Rico Dowdle and realizing that he was a weapon, and then getting Chuba Hubbard back in there and seeing how they work together and just figuring out how that offense was going to work. But it's unfortunate that sometimes it does rely so heavily on what Bryce looks like that day. And it's tough. I mean, I always question the scheduling when you get these divisional matchups in the last 3 weeks of the season. You have to play a team twice. That's a lot to ride on, because that it impacts your playoff picture. And it's cool for the fans, because now everybody gets to watch this really interesting and impactful duo of matchups down the stretch. But it's got to be really stressful for both of these teams who are desperately trying to make a push to the playoffs, especially the Panthers, who, like you said, Caroline, have not been there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the craziest pieces of it is how long the playoff drought has been. It's one of the longest in the NFL. I think they're tied with the Falcons for one of the longest times of not being to the postseason. So there's a lot on the line. Definitely this group is trending in the right direction. But what we do know is that their lives get a whole lot easier with a win this coming Sunday at home at Bank of America Stadium. That helps playing in front of the home crowd. That game is at 1 o'clock, and our very own Ella Grogan will be there on the scene. So we'll be bringing you post-game reaction and all that stuff next week when the time comes. But for now, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a bit.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. If you're watching this on Friday, December 19th, this is the first round of the college football playoff. We've got 4 games to look forward to, starting with Friday night's matchup between Alabama and Oklahoma, the 9 and 8 seed. That one's going on in Norman Friday night. And we'll start with this one. We'll go through all 4 of these games, but let's start with Alabama at Oklahoma. The winner of this game goes on to face the Indiana Hoosiers in the Rose Bowl. And, we'll start right here. We got our locks of the week coming up, and we will go with my lock of the week. To start off the top, I am picking the Crimson Tide to take down Oklahoma, and I will tell you a couple of reasons why. Number one, first, just statistically, Alabama has not lost to a team twice in the same season since 1893. So numbers and history are on their side there. And, from there, I would like to think that, they learned their lesson from that traumatic SEC championship game that I would honestly like to just delete from my brain because that was a hard watch for anyone, unless you're a Georgia fan. But I think they will fix what needed to be fixed. They will move on, and they will not let Oklahoma become kind of their kryptonite moving forward, because 2 losses in their first 2 years in the SEC, that's tough to go with, Caroline.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, regardless of what Alabama has been and what it was, we don't need to get into all of that. But Alabama is Alabama, right? Like, it's this brand. Julia, you went to school there, but I just feel like Kalen DeBoer is going to have these guys ready to go. He's been in this spot before, and I'm not saying that Oklahoma and Venables are not. I'm just saying that we've seen what we've seen from Kalen DeBoer. We've seen him take a team to the national championship. We've seen this team in this spot before, and I just think that, I don't know, I got to roll with the Crimson Tide. And maybe I'm saying that because earlier in the season, I had a little bit of doubt. I slept on the Tide. I'm sorry to admit, and you know what? They've proved me wrong, so I'm not going to get caught being proved wrong a second time. I think that being able to see Alabama pull this one out and put up a good fight in the process, I think that's probably what we're going to witness. But Bronwyn, what are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, so I usually try not to pick against Bama. It's just, as an SEC girl, it's just kind of bred into you. You don't pick against Bama. I kind of want to pick against Bama today. I kind of want to go OU in this game. I think I know. I think if they can get their offense, they have these random offensive bursts of insanity, 87-yard touchdowns that just change the whole trajectory of the game. I think if they can get their offense going, their defense is pretty solid. So, guys, I'm sorry. I have to pick OU.
Okay.
I want to be a little spicy today. My first game.
We need some balance. We
She's
always need some
the pot.
balance.
Hey,
well, there's no shortage of
There you go.
SEC teams in this playoff either. The next game, the first one on Saturday afternoon, Miami at Texas A&M. I'm rolling with the Aggies here. It just feels right seeing how they, kind of just rolled through their schedule throughout the season. Obviously, a little hiccup there against Texas to close out the regular season, but I think they handle Miami pretty easily, Caroline.
Yeah, I think so too. And we can even think back to the game that we all were locked into, right? When A&M played against the Gamecocks there in College Station. And, you're kind of sitting there looking at this team thinking, oh my gosh, they're undefeated and they're down 30-3. What is going on right now? And you saw in that second half why they are in the spot that they're in. And that's a team that's been playing some really high quality football. Marcel Reed, their quarterback, he's got what he's got, and I think that Texas A&M has a chance of making that interesting. Bronwyn, what do you think about A&M? I know you maybe had that one as your lock of the week, yeah?
I did have that as my lock of the week. I think the Ags get it done. I love y'all's points. It's literally, they've just rolled through this season. It was kind of a team you didn't have to worry about, right? You didn't even turn on the TV because you were like, oh, they got it. Gig 'em Ags. Yeah, I'm rocking with the Aggies.
All right, we got to roll through these last two pretty quickly. I'm going to go a little crazy here. I'm going to say John Sumrall, the double head coaching wonder right now. I think Tulane takes down Ole Miss. Caroline, let's roll through.
Ooh, Julia, come on now. You can't just take my lock of the week out of here like that. I had Ole Miss, the Reds in this one. I think they're going to play inspired after Lane Kiffin left them. And also they already beat Tulane 45-10. So that one is going to be my lock. We'll see. We'll see how we did after this weekend. But guys, we're going to take one more break. We'll be right back after this.
Well, welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Next week's Christmas, and we're going to talk about our sports Christmas wishes. For me, all I want for Christmas is the Stingrays to get a Kelly Cup playoff run. They actually play Orlando tonight, tomorrow night, and Sunday. They lost to them last year, Game 7 in the first round. So that's what I want. I'm going to cover that.
There we go. All right, I'm going to go quickly here.
That's
Gamecocks
fantastic.
get a competent offensive line. You've got the new coach. You've got the new OC. Lenore Sellers all but coming back. Get some guys to protect him. That's the first key to success next year.
And mine is from the college football world as well. We got the Pinstripe Bowl coming up, and I want nothing more for Christmas than for the Clemson Tigers to get a win over Penn State. Little Christmas in New York, only appropriate that there's a Christmas wish involved, right, guys? All right, well, thank you for watching Palmetto Sports Daily. We hope you join us back here tomorrow. Everybody have a wonderful day.